Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So on yesterday's Kabam live stream, one of the things that did get discussed was unit economy and arena. So Kabam John discussed it with Kabam Jax, and inevitably there is forum threads popping up about the subject, the polls, what people think, and let's break down everything that's happening, because it is quite an active point of debate in community right now, in my opinion, and kind of both sides have merit. So vote to see how community feels about removing units in arena and moving those units to another game mode. Help Kabam understand how the community would feel about major changes to the arena. And quite clearly, no, I like running arena for units, or no, don't change arena is winning, effectively getting 66% of the vote. And that got people obviously talking, that got people hyped. And there is a calm down post from Kabam Mike. You can take it as you will, whether you believe it or not, but adding a little more context here, this was a thought that one of our team members had, and he made it clear that it was his opinion only and not necessarily the opinion of the whole team. We have no plans to remove units from the arenas at this time. His thinking were that it could spread those units to places where people play often. Some players love arenas, some players don't, but that's the same case for every other aspect of the game. So that's also something to take into the account. I'm not entirely sure that I would be absolutely outraged if they did that, depending on how they did that. I also do understand that majority of the community feels differently, but I did not make this channel to reflect the opinions of everybody else. I made it to explain how I see things and what I look at, and what are my own opinions, not yours. That is not to say I will not make videos covering your opinions at times, but I do not by any means intend to, say something only because it's popular in the community. And here is the problem right now. They use the current unit economy as a reason, for instance, not how units in Thronebreaker EQ. I don't think that quite works, because they could easily move some of the units or all of the units from some other difficulty level into the event quest, right? In my opinion. Or work around it as well. At the same time, though, I have never liked arena as a game mode in particular. I always found it tedious, and I do grind it when I grind for a champion, and yeah, I do grind it now and then when I do need units, but it's not something I want to do. Something that I feel like I have to do in order to get the units. If I could combine that with earning the units at the same time, if those units would appear more frequently in the side events, if those units would appear more frequently in the Thronebreaker EQ or some other places where, I personally play the game more frequently, I'd probably prefer that, to be honest. The problem for me lies in the execution, yet again. And that is where, immediately when any bigger change to the game are concerned, with Kabam's extremely spotty track history and their little sly mistakes when the players end up worse off because they didn't see something, they didn't think of something, they didn't take stuff in account, allegedly, we end up suffering for it. And that is kind of the biggest fear here. In theory, if I lay down on the paper, it kind of makes sense to me if done properly. Therefore, I do not want to be completely outraged by it on a personal. Again, I do understand that there are many different players that will feel differently about what I have to say. But if I can earn the units or some of the units that they have in arena milestones by playing, let's say, Thronebreaker EQ, I'd gladly do that. I'd take that deal. If I could earn some of the units that I would have to specifically go to arena and dedicate my time playing the arena, mindlessly easy fights where I have zero interest in, aside from the rewards, virtually any other game mode that I play already, that would seem like a win for me. Again, my concern there is the implementation of it, the economy, the math of it, and so on and so forth. At the same time, I obviously do see players' concerns because I play the game relatively at high level. I am the type of player who typically pretty much plays all of the game modes or most of the game modes. And if anything, Arena is the one that's kind of easier for me to shed off. It's the one game mode I want to get rid of. I don't want to be playing Arena. Now, with the exception of last couple months side events, for instance, I always do my side events. I always play Battlegrounds, Alliance War, Alliance Quest, pretty much the rest of the game modes. But yeah, I would be happy if I wouldn't have to grind Arena to get units, or if I could get more units without grinding Arena. Understandably, that is a perspective of a more engaged player, I would say, and a player that is, more experienced in the game, plays the game more actively, has a big roster, and has the kind of like confidence and the capability of finishing the in-game content that we do get. Would that be good for newer players? I don't know. I understand why people freak out, but the thing is, if you are newer to the game and if your roster is small, the arena is significantly harder for you as well. Like, it does take a lot more time to get those units. So what would work out better for newer players? I really don't know, because as a newer player, you also do not have the ability to get through the rest of the monthly stuff as easy, and a lot of people just don't. There are plenty of people who just play the game to kind of casually grind arena, do like the alliance stuff, and then do bits here and there. And ultimately, I think that is where we're at. I think the large amount of immediate vocal feedback here comes less from the idea itself, more from the distrust in Kabam in doing it right. Because regardless of what is the situation, again, whether the majority of units are in arena, which is, again, something that we all have used to, and there is a certain sense of calm in the way things are. It doesn't mean that's the best thing. Like, what's the best way to explain it? The same thing with the revive farming. Kabam removing the revive farming, in my opinion, is not a big problem if the game is tuned around us not having infinite revives, which it is. If the game has, die now mechanics and a ton of BS nodes where you cannot get through without spamming revives effectively, then that becomes a problem. Not to mention that doing it halfway through the game's lifespan becomes a problem, because people who could revive farm and complete a content that does require revive farm, gives them an edge over players who are up and coming now and will be trying to do that content later when there is no revive farming available. But ultimately, do I think spending hours upon hours upon hours farming revives is good for the game? No, I don't. Because that's not a fun, engaging activity. It's a tedious, it's one of those things that can make this game feel like a job. Again, I'm not saying it was good for them to remove the revive nerf the way they did it at all. I disagree. I don't think it was good. I think with the removal of the farmable revives, there should have been very, very comprehensive adjustments to the game if they were going to go ahead with it. Or they should have just, kept it and then sleep in the bed that they laid for themselves. Disagree with, keeping arena challenges the same, keeping Abyss and Necropolis instant death mechanics without the revive farm. And the same thing is here. It is something that could be good for the game, because you wouldn't feel like you have to grind arena, let's say, as a free-to-play or low spender, and you'd still be getting large amount of units without the arena, which ultimately does sound like a win to me. And it could be a win if done properly. So far, we have literally zero indication that Kabam would do right by the players when enacting this change. And again, I don't think there is a plausible way to do this at all to satisfy everybody. But as long as it would be done like fair and competent and, with the kind of like quality of life for the players in mind, I think it could be a decent thing. I just don't believe Kabam will ever be able to do it. Therefore, I'm not for it. Yeah, in theory, it could be. In reality, like living on this earth, looking at Kabam's track record in regards to bugs, the way they're managing game economy, everything else. I cannot be for it because I don't have any faith in Kabam doing them right. Just like I'm not for them removing the revive farm the way they did without the adjustment of the rest of the game. So that's where I sit. I think it is an intriguing idea. I think it is definitely well worth discussing. I do think that there are merits to it. And again, in theory and paper, I like it. It could make the game better for me. I'm not definitely immediately, completely screaming from the top of my lungs from hearing the idea of like reducing or removing units from arena. At the same time, though, just don't trust them to it. Therefore, hopefully they won't. Let me know what you guys think about this. It's a definitely interesting topic for discussion. And yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Bye-bye. Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about